Hi, I'm Shaun Bunn. I'm the Managing Director of Empire Metals. We are a Australian-focused, London-listed, Australian-focused explorer looking for giants in basically what is a massive mineral system.
Big friendly giants. Well, Shaun, good to see you again. We saw you back in Perth live, where you went on a bit of a run, went from 165 up to whatever it was, about 285. Come off a bit and then gone up again on the news that you haven't quite found copper yet, but you found massive high-grade titanium. What's going on?
Well, it's really a very pleasant surprise, I must say, at the start of this conversation. But really, what's happened? We identified at Pitfield. This is the Pitfield project just north of Perth. It's a near Proterozoic system, highly enriched in copper, old copper mines, old copper workings. We've always thought that was going to hold multiple copper deposits. So we started this whole process with various areas of geophysics, airborne mags, electromagnetics. Finally got onto the ground, did some induced polarization, charged the ground with electrical currents, picked up some responses, and that's what we drilled. We said this is highly unusual, need to know what it is. So our maiden drill program drilled into these charged zones. We were hoping or thinking copper sulfides. No, it was actually a very high-grade titanium mineral system with an overprint of, say, hematite, some magnetite in the system. But basically, we've hit a very high-grade, very large titanium mineral system.
Is that good?
Very good. Titanium's a critical metal. It's one of those on the European lists. It's on the US. I mean, the Pentagon are chasing this. They use it for defense, so airborne, airspace. Titanium metal and titanium pigments are, a very sought after commodity. So it's not copper, but it's certainly not necessarily a bad result in the sense that we've got a discovery of scale that has huge market potential.
But here's the question for you, Shaun, is now you know what those signatures actually mean, i.e. it's titanium, not copper, do you continue chasing titanium, or do you go back to what you originally set out to do and try and find the copper component? I presume you can't do both.
Oh, no, you can do it. It's a bit of both. You've got to look at the sequencing of this. So what I like about this is that the 21 holes, 20 of the 21 holes hit high grade. The 21st hole still hit the titanium. So 100% success rate. Every hole, over 50% of each sample was high-grade titanium. So it's this is pervasive. It's consistently high-grade. It starts near surface. 25% of the holes finish in this material. So do I need to rush out and keep drilling to find out what this might be in a sense of scale? No. What I need to do is diagnostic work now on what I've collected, the samples. What are the mineral species that we're dealing with? What's the titanium tied up in? What are we going to do with this, in terms of advancing our understanding? That's pretty well mapped out for the next 6 months, Matthew. We'll be doing, petrology work, thin sections, under the microscopes, doing the test work. So that's the titanium focus. On the copper, there's nothing to stop us rolling out another reconnaissance program over the next few months, but we're going to be looking in different parts of the system. We learnt a lot about copper from this drill program.
Well, you worked out what not to look for, but what did you learn about the copper?
Well, partly, the whole system that we drilled through is still elevated in copper background. We've got up to 25 times copper in this sediment, which, where did that come from? So the copper, like the titanium, has come up in these pulses. These fluids are injected up into these rocks, dropped out titanium, but the chemistry at that point isn't conducive, isn't the right chemistry for copper to drop out. So the copper's spreading through that system and that part of the system. But you know what? It doesn't mean that the copper hasn't, accumulated, somewhere else along those pathways. So simply put, the copper has come in not last, but later. The titanium's come in before the copper. Copper's come in, it's looking for a home, it's looking for a trap. We've got to go and look back down the system to see where that is.
Right. Okay. You say there's nothing stopping you, but money might. So how do you as a $12 million company, I know you raised a bit of money recently, but was it £1.25 million recently, which the directors all subscribe to a small portion of. How do you move this thing forward? Because obviously you've been talking to the market about finding, big copper in a big copper district. You've got a big land package. It's going to take time to go, clearly from recent results, it's going to take time or more time to get after this and try and work out what you should be looking for. So what's the message to the market in terms of what you've learned and how you're going to allocate that capital going forward? And presumably you're going to need to, nature of exploration, raise more capital soon.
Well, we did raise. Now, I think the thing people need to take on board is that we did do a small but important raising, earlier this year, back in March, April, and with the express purpose, as we stated at the time, that should we find something or get an some sort of lead as to where we would go next, we had the funds to go back and re-drill. So I'm saying, so don't need to drill for titanium. I know where it is. And I can do these bloody charge responses, up and down the whole system and find where that titanium's sitting. The copper is what I'm going to go and hunt. Now, I spent, on that 3,000 metres, we spent roughly about half, $500,000 Australian, Aussie dollar, 300,000 pounds. I mean, I can go and do another one of those, maybe 2 more of those in the next 6 to 12 months and still have cash in the can. So I'm not bulletproof. We're not saying that we're completely distinguished between, we don't need to sit there and go, we need to raise more money right now. We might raise money as we get more and more success and find, a sniff of copper or some more titanium. So it's all good. I don't think I need to, focus just yet on where the money comes from. I've got to use the money we have to find that first discovery hole.
Well, but that's what I'm trying to get to here. Like, okay, you're good. You're good with your money. You don't splash it around. But likewise, whatever money you've got, whatever money you've raised recently, I guess the market, the audience, definitely your shareholders want to know is, what do you know about how you go and find that where the copper has ended up in this system? Because otherwise you're going to be drilling, well, even if you drilled another 20 holes, no guarantees of success there unless you've got a good sense of what you're targeting and where that is and how quickly you can do that. So again, you've learned about where you don't want to go. You know where the titanium is. You don't want to find more of that just yet. Thank you very much. But going after the copper, how are you going to be efficient?
So you go back to why we found these titanium targets first. So we use techniques, geophysics, geochemistry to try and pinpoint where these occurrences were. So the reverse applies. I mean, I can still use this IP technology to sort of get a fingerprint of where these high titanium zones are. And if it continues to demonstrate that the copper's not coincident with that, then by definition, I'm eliminating, at least near surface within the top 150 meters, I'm eliminating, targets. So I'm narrowing it down. But what I'm getting at is if copper came in late, if copper was part of a fluid injection post the initial alteration, it's going to follow the pathways. The faults, the cracks, the fissures are where that copper would have gone, because that's the easiest way for the fluids to get through the rock. So what we'll do is we go back and we do more detailed gravity analysis, because the gravity I have is regional. It's done by the Geological Survey of Western Australia. It's very high level. If I do a gravity footprint on the ground, I'll see those cracks, I'll see those faults. right down, not to the bottom, the bowels of the earth, but I'll see what structurally is happening. We go back in and do further soil sampling, but this time we try and get an auger. So in other words, instead of taking little bits and pieces from the ground, from the soil, we'll auger in and see what is sitting underneath that. Now, the idea being is I'm looking for high-grade copper anomalies near surface, faults and structures, and then what we'll do is we'll come in and we'll start to put the drill rigs back on site. So, and all of that's going to take 3 to 4 or 5 months. We're not talking about a 2-year program here. We're talking about get on the ground, get going, do the science, find some high priority targets, and go back and drill them.
Okay. Look, I'm not giving you a hard time. You're doing the difficult bit here. You're doing the exploration. You've got to find the stuff, and do that as efficiently as possible. But at the same time, companies like yours, burn up quite quickly if you run out of cash, and you run out of cash if you run out of a story for people to kind of get behind. So are you confident that the copper is there and that it can be found? You've been drilling shallow stuff to date. Has your view changed? Do you think you need to go deeper? You've discounted some of the land package that you need to go after because there's probably more than likely titanium there, and I get that you're still dealing with small, but it's still a big expanse. So I'm just trying to work out how do you feel about your ability to go and find that and keep the market excited about your ability to do that?
It's a question that's difficult to answer precisely. Are we confident that this big, massive mineral system has has potential for multiple metals, multiple deposits? Absolutely. It's amazing. I mean, without putting a number on it, if you look at the massive alteration area, 10 kilometers by 30 to 40 kilometers in length, and we've only gone down this 150 meters, but even with the low levels of copper anomalism that I'm reporting, 130 ppm on average up to 600 ppm, that is an awful lot of metal, copper metal, sitting there amongst all that titanium. The actual amount of metal in the system is enormous. Now, giant metal systems, say giant copper metal systems, Escondida, Olympic Dam, those big boys, you measure them in tens and tens and tens of millions of tons of copper. So what I'm saying is they have found an area within their big system where it's concentrated, but there's all this copper in the system to start with. This is not a minnow. This is not a little high-grade porphyry. There's already an awful lot of copper that we can show people and say, look, it's there. Do the maths. But where has it been trapped? That I can't honestly, at this point in time, tell you. I've got to go find that.
Right. Okay. And so can you just to help people understand that you took about 600 ppm sorts of levels at its peak. What's that in percentage terms? People usually refer to copper.
It's only about 0.06. So what we're saying is
0.6. Okay.
0.06. So the problem you've got, and people will look at that very skeptically and say, oh, well, that's not a copper mine. It's too low grade. Understand that. We're not saying that that's economic. What we're saying is that is a huge indicator that a massive amount of copper's come in. That number hasn't, in terms of concentration, not economic. In terms of total metal contact, a phenomenal number. So the system is very enriched in copper. It just needs for some of those copper fluids to have contacted areas of reducing type rocks, graphites, carbonaceous material, and copper drops out. So that part of the science, if you like, is pretty clear. Finding it is the difficult thing. I'm not pretending otherwise. We've got to do the science, and we've got to narrow down the choices to drill, and then we've got to hunt this thing by the drill rigs. You can't work this out without drilling. So yes, eventually the truth will be at the end of the drill bit.
Okay, well, we for one are watching this because if you work out where these fluids have been deposited, it'll be good news. I guess your role in this is one, obviously doing that, but two, just making sure the market understands the process that you're going through to systematically either rule out certain areas like you've just been able to do, and get after the areas which are most highly prospective in terms of delivering that copper again. And your message, market, is we're still after the copper because that's the big prize here.
I think so. I don't underestimate and I won't overlook, this titanium mineral opportunity. And, I've worked in the ilmenite. I've worked on minerals like this before, and they're very profitable, very sought after, commodities. What we haven't quite got our heads around yet, and what I think the market hasn't fully appreciated, is the scale of this. This is not some beach sand that's accumulated by oceans and just washed up it goes down a few meters or whatever. We've drilled 150 meters through this. It's not beach sands. It's not what we would call an intrusive or volcanic ilmenite system. This is unique. It's a sedimentary rock full of titanium-rich minerals. I can't wait to get back and have a look at what that does under the microscope, see what the minerals are, see how we can extract them, because this quite possibly is, certainly is got to be on the radar of some of those big titanium players, because this is a game changer if it is.
Okay, well, Shaun, I appreciate the update. You're going through a process. You've got the money to do the next couple of phases, so I look forward to hearing all about it. Stay in touch. Let us know how you get on, okay?
Absolutely will. It's a pleasure.